As a kid, I always had nosebleeds, sometimes twice a day.
And one morning, I'll never forget it.
I got a call from my daughter, who was Amy, to say that Grace was very, very sick at home and I needed to come home right now.
Her husband carried her into the hospital. They tried to revive her and save the child, and they lost both of them.
We went to the doctor's office 3 times. They did blood work, didn't feel he had any issues, that it was a migraine, and that we'd have to wait it out.
My daughter had 10 admissions, and it wasn't until really the 9th one that we found out what was wrong.
It was found that it was an abscess and 120 milliliters of abscess. 5 milliliters is considered dangerous to have that in your brain. 3 visits to the emergency room to get someone to listen and to finally get a diagnosis.
It was a relief getting diagnosed with HHT because we were able to, find out what was actually happening, and we were able to treat it after that.
HHT stands for hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. It is an inherited condition or a genetic condition.
It's estimated that about 1 in 3,000, maybe 1 in 5,000 people in the United States have HHT. The symptoms we often see are frequent nosebleeds and red spots, but there are those with what we call invisible symptoms. And these may be very difficult for both patients, families, and their physicians to find.
Most families, unfortunately, have to have their own catastrophe before they realize that this isn't just a nosebleed disorder.
We almost lost Anthony because of the delayed diagnosis of HHT.
Because of the lack of awareness of HHT, my daughter died a week before she was to attend an appointment that could have saved her life.
In this disease, abnormal blood vessels develop in various parts of people's bodies.
An AVM, or an arteriovenous malformation, is a direct connection between an artery and a vein, bypassing the capillary that should be connecting them.
As a result of these abnormal vessels, various symptoms and complications can develop.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we face right now is awareness. If you have this, the odds are about half of your family members have it also. And they could have these terrible tragedies like we have had, but if they know they have it and they get diagnosed, for the most part, they're treatable.
Up to 90% of people in our country are unaware of the diagnosis of HHT, even though they have it.
Everybody needs to be tested with HHT. The reason for this is because AVMs can be present at birth. I've actually had a 3-week-old patient have a stroke.
We saw a 30-year-old father in clinic yesterday that has a 2-year-old on life support because of a ruptured AVM that has known for 15 years that he had HHT because of his recurring nosebleeds, but just assumed that since the nosebleeds weren't bad, that this wasn't anything he needed to worry about.
When HHT is suspected, a series of tests are necessary to first make a diagnosis and secondly to understand the full scope of HHT's impact in an individual.
We recommend that every baby born to a mom or dad with HHT be tested right at birth for HHT. We know too many babies in HHT families that have a brain bleed from an AVM in the brain long before they have a nosebleed.
It surprises me that HHT is not even mentioned in some medical textbooks. And if it is mentioned, it usually only warrants a single line or 2. It's the same order of magnitude as cystic fibrosis. And yet most people have heard of cystic fibrosis, very few have heard of HHT.
If we would have known about HHT much earlier, the consequences would have been much less severe.
After Grace died, we got the rest of our family screened. The youngest, Julia, presented very, very ill, and she was rushed to hospital where the doctors knew about HHT, and they saved my daughter. And the fact that we knew more about HHT is the reason why she's alive today.
As genetic disorders go, we see HHT as a very manageable disease if it's diagnosed early and screening is done early to prevent the more severe complications of HHT.
We must find who has HHT and screen them for the presence of AVMs so that they can be treated appropriately.
My family, like most HHT families, has suffered dire consequences of HHT. We had a child die, my daughter at 18 months, before we realized that this was something to take seriously.
My wish is that no other children will die from this disorder.
We need people to understand, especially the medical community, what HHT is.
As for me and my family, we want that screening just as soon as possible.
My daughter Grace died in my arms. And of course that's never going to go away. And she could have been saved. That's the terrible part.
Good evening. Welcome to the Cure HHT 30th anniversary celebration. What a momentous time to reflect and rejoice upon the research, development, and strides that all of the doctors, researchers, patients of HHT, and family members, and many others have done to make this disease recognizable and put forth efforts to help generations to come. I am a brief guest speaker this evening, just popping on to say hello and speak with you about one of the wonderful gifts in your goodie bag, the La Vostra Prosecco. So why am I here talking about sparkling wine? I'm a sommelier and currently run Providence, Rhode Island's hottest new restaurant, Bayberry Garden. And I just wanted to pop on and say congratulations. It's always fun to rejoice and to celebrate with bubbles, although I would highly recommend enjoying bubbles for any type of experience and not just a celebration. Perfect for morning mimosas, perfect for, having with a little dessert or chocolate cake for dinner or after dinner. Also, most or best enjoyed with your new 30th year strong mug. Keep your Prosecco cold and don't pour it over ice would be my recommendation, but if you want something extra cold and your fridge isn't cold enough or freezer, you could put this over ice, but wouldn't recommend it. Prosecco is from Italy, and not to be confused with Champagne, which is from Champagne, France, and Cava, which is from Penedès, Spain. Prosecco is typically from Veneto in Italy, and the grape is Galera. If you have sparkling wine that's not from Champagne, France, or not from Spain, or not from Italy, then it's just sparkling wine from California, or sparkling wine from Chile, or sparkling wine from Australia. So fun little fun fact, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people call champagne something that isn't champagne. Just call it what it is. It's sparkling wine, it's delicious, it's fun and festive, and yes, cheers to you all of Cure HHT, and happy celebrating.
Good evening, and welcome to the Cure HHT 30th Anniversary Celebration. My name is Harry Chapman, and I will be your host this evening. I am an HHT patient, and I currently serve on the Cure HHT Board of Directors. And over the years, I've learned about all the progress that's being made to improve the lives of those of us with HHT. My HHT journey began some 60 years ago when Air Force flight surgeons noticed a spot on my lung. Unable to make the diagnosis, they referred me to civilian doctors who confirmed a diagnosis of Osler-Weber syndrome, or HHT. The treatment at that time was to remove the middle lobe of my right lung. I continued to have nosebleeds after that, which actually presented a problem for me since I was an on-air TV personality. I have 3 children. I have 10 grandchildren. All 3 of my children and 8 of my 10 grandchildren have been diagnosed with HHT. We almost lost my daughter when she was pregnant to a lung bleed, and we almost lost a granddaughter who had a brain bleed. Fortunately, both survived, and that's because of good doctors like Dr. Jim Gossage at the Center of Excellence at Augusta, Georgia. We thank all of our doctors and all those who treat us. I'm grateful for Cure HHT and the work that's being done for all of us who suffer from HHT. For 30 years, Cure HHT has been the cornerstone of the global HHT community, creating stellar awareness, access to care, robust scientific and research initiatives. Tonight, we celebrate the many accomplishments of the organizations through its 3 decades of history, starting with the man who is known as the father of HHT, Dr. Robert White. It was Dr. White's dedication, foresight, and expertise, along with Dr. Bruce Jacobson's contributions, that laid the foundation for today's HHT community of patients, families, physicians around the world. In 1990, Sharon Victor, Dr. Jacobson, Dennis Donahue, Abby Myers of the National Organization of Rare Diseases met with Dr. White at Yale Medical Center to work together to form a new HHT Foundation International. By 1991, thanks to the same core group and some 15 families, HHT-FI received 501(c) status, and from there on, it was mission forward. Let's sit back and take a glance at the early years with Dr. White. This dynamic woman needs no introduction, as she is the true force behind Cure HHT and the Foundation. It's my sincere pleasure to introduce our first and only Executive Director, Marianne Clancy. Marianne, it's all you.
Good evening and welcome everyone to Cure HHT's 30th anniversary celebration. My name is Marianne Clancy and I'm your Executive Director of Cure HHT. I have been involved with our organization for 26 years, and my journey began with my HHT diagnosis in 1994 after the birth of our third child. Of course, this diagnosis was missed for 32 years, despite a robust family history of strokes, sudden death, chronic bleeding, anemia, and transfusions. I was a scared mother of 3 young children who were under the age of 6. This support organization for those diagnosed with HHT was formed just 3 years earlier. The foresight of Dr. Bruce Jacobson, now deceased, from the University of Massachusetts, Dr. Bob White at the Yale HHT Center of Excellence, and Sharon Victor, the first president of this newly incorporated organization, the HHT Foundation, and its impact is quite profound. I have spent time reflecting on how much this organization has meant to me and so many others who have become family. At the time of my diagnosis, Rita von Bergerick was president. I called the 800 number and had a human connection to answer my many questions and calm my anxiety. I was also directed to contact volunteer extraordinaire Trish Linke, who was also on this force board of directors. In 1996, Trish recommended the HHT Foundation obtain a domain for this new technology, the internet. Trish answered questions from many people around the world 7 days a week until her death in 2015. She saved thousands of lives by listening and providing wise counsel and treatment referral. The foundation has had 11 presidents during this 30-year history, and each president has led the organization through the next phase of growth. As I think back to these times, I see Cure HHT as an advocacy organization. However, it is truly a collection of people, all dedicated to the HHT cause. The recurrent theme for our organization is the commitment of patients, physicians, and scientists who all work together to help advance a cure. I see Cure HHT as a collection of individuals around the globe, united with the same goals. Since the early days, when I became a board member in 1995, then president in 1999 through 2001 for 1 term, and then the first executive director in 2001, all activities were focused and specific to our growing community and building this organization brick by brick to ensure the stability of the foundation for which to continue to build this global community. The 800 number came into my home for more than a decade, supporting all who phoned for support, education, and referral for treatment. Calls came from all points of the world: Asia, Australia, Europe, South America, Eastern Europe, Canada, Mexico, and countries in between. During those years, I spent hours talking on the phone with scientists, including Dr. Michelle Letarte, who discovered endoglin, Dr. Doug Marchik, who discovered the HHT genes, and of course, Dr. Bob White at Yale, always discussing how to advance the science in medicine. I spent time with each president of the board charting our course of growth, which was critical to continue to build upon our early successes. I often say I did not choose this position, it chose me. And as I think back through the years, I am struck at the vivid memories I have of key moments in our history and always building our community of international members. In 1999, I received a call from Mike Nolan, a member from Ireland. I remember exactly where I was standing in place and listening to how his daughter Grace was admitted every month for 9 months to the hospital, throwing up blood, and no one could figure it out. Referring Mike and Grace to the nearest HHT center in London, they were due to go in a few weeks. I followed up and called Mike at his work to see how they were doing and learned that Grace had died 1 week before her appointment. This news was devastating and affected us deeply. We dug in and promised to work harder so these tragedies do not continue to occur. Educating physicians to think about this diagnosis was a matter of life and death. We continued our tradition of annual conferences to provide education to patients and families. The number of families grew every year. Our focus was on continuing to build our community of patients and strengthen the foundation of the HHT Foundation International. We were expanding our centers of excellence. In 2002, we decided to raise money to fund critical research, enable genetic testing, and understand the underpinnings of how HHT develops so we could understand how to help with new treatments. We traveled to 6 major cities, held receptions, and invited the most interested donors to our cause to help. And help they did, raising $1.8 million in less than 2 years. During the years of 2003 to 2004, we were able to fund 3 labs to do genetic testing in North America and began funding critical mechanistic research. How I remember working closely with our new scientific and medical research chair, Dr. Marie Faunen, who expanded committees, and together with Dr. Alan Guttmacher in launching our research program, gathering a research committee to evaluate proposals and rank them. We were committed to funding the best research anywhere in the world. We began legislative advocacy and began to seek increased funding at the CDC and NIH for awareness and research. We were awarding our seed grants, and the National Institute of Health needed to know we were incredibly underfunded and that our community deserved better. They also would be receiving proposals for expanded funding based upon the results of the seed grants the HHT Foundation International had funded. Our board continued to provide critical guidance, and in 2008, through the strategic leadership of President Bob Berkman, we made it a goal to open 2 centers of excellence per year, hired our first medical director, Dr. Jim Gossage. We worked in close partnership to continue to achieve advances and bring results to you and better therapies to reduce bleeding. Now, the hours spent on the phone weekly were with Drs. Gossage, Faunen, and Hughes as we ushered in a generation of scientists and physicians to solve critical questions. The patient support we provide you, our global community, continue to grow through the internet, calls to the 800 number, and through our community forum. Our website was improved upon, and membership to the HHT Foundation sustained us through these years. While this hard work produced successes and growth, there were important reminders how HHT can be life-changing and stop us in our tracks. How I remember receiving a call of a 2-year-old girl playing on the front lawn in Tennessee who suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage and stroke, and this family grieving the loss of their dear daughter. Shortly thereafter, a young man, just 14 at the time, Will Neesmith, suffered a brain hemorrhage at a summer camp. He was airlifted to Vanderbilt and survived this event. Will had to relearn how to walk, talk, and function through intense rehabilitation for several years. And through his determination is a success story. Through hard work, he graduated from high school and college. Receiving calls from patients in emergency rooms and their physicians on how to stop bleeding was a monthly occurrence. Leading them to our website, providing support on the phone for patients and their doctors anywhere in the world is important life-saving work. In 2014, the HHT Foundation International rebranded as Cure HHT to better reflect our goals to advance therapies needed sooner rather than later, and to focus on an eventual cure, as science was creating new breakthroughs at an accelerated pace. as we continue to raise money for important scientific and clinical breakthroughs, such as the new HHT mouse model, an AVM on a chip to test drug compounds, and understand the impact of factors influencing the growth of AVMs, we made the largest investment in young and established researchers, funded the first clinical trial on nosebleeds, fully funding the international scientific conferences, all to accelerate therapies we all desperately need and deserve. Based on the investments we made in prior research through the years, we are now poised to prioritize the most promising work in identifying the gaps and producing new therapeutics or combination of therapies on the horizon to stop this disease in its tracks. To standardize diagnosis and treatment, the 2020 Christopher McMahon International Guidelines, funded through Cure HHT, was published in one of the top 5 impact journals in the world, the Annals of Internal Medicine, reaching 675,000 internal medicine physicians around the world. We are confident these physicians will know what HHT is and how to refer for screening and treatment, a huge win for awareness and treatment. We have built our international community of people dedicated to our cause. Cure HHT is the cornerstone of the HHT community, the one place you can go to get all of your answers as well as cutting-edge treatment information and treatment referral. The success of the last 30 years would not have been possible without the most dedicated, hardworking, and results-oriented staff who come to work each day to support you and your families. Each person is committed to ensuring you have the resources, tools, and most up-to-date information at your fingertips. I thank each of them, past and present, from the bottom of my heart. We all have had our journeys influenced by how our families have been affected. As your executive director, I can fully commit to put forth all of the resources we can muster to advance our efforts and funds to obtain our first FDA-approved therapy and more on the horizon, something long overdue for HHT patients and much deserved. I made a promise to my family that I would be there to see my children married and experience life as a grandparent, something my mother never had the chance to do. She was taken by HHT when I was just 21 years old. We will continue to be here for you and your family in the years to come. You are the organization, all committed to one cause. This is the cause of our life. And I hope you will join me in our commitment to change the trajectory of this disease and leverage the most impactful and important research to reduce the growth of AVMs, prevent them from forming, as well as controlling chronic bleeding so we can all live a better and stronger life. This is not a dream, but a goal I am confident we will achieve. It is through partnership and strength in our community that our organization will make this a reality. Onward to producing breakthroughs in the next decade. Thank you.
Many of you know and will recognize our next speaker, Dr. Sarah Palmer, as the author of Living with HHT. But Dr. Palmer also plays an important role in the inner workings of the foundation as our acting president. Here's Dr. Palmer with an overview of the foundation's present status and our exciting plans for the future, plans that will have a positive impact on each and every one of us. Here's Dr. Palmer.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Sarah Palmer. I've been a Cure HHT donor and volunteer for over 25 years, since the foundation first explained to me that HHT was more than a nosebleed and referred me to the Yale Center of Excellence, the only North American center at that time, to get the care that I needed. As I learned more about HHT, I appreciated my good fortune to be diagnosed and treated before suffering complications from my previously undiagnosed lung AVM. Grateful to the Foundation for support and information, I was inspired to help the HHT community and to ensure that Cure HHT would be there for future generations. So I started volunteering, first in local fundraising events, then as an educator at patient conferences and the author of Living with HHT, a book for patients and families. I joined the Cure HHT Board of Directors in 2015 and currently serve as its president. It's been a privilege to work with the small but mighty Cure HHT staff, to partner with a volunteer board of directors who are multi-talented, hardworking, and passionate in their quest for a cure, to learn from physician experts in HHT, to interact with patients, and to keep track of research developments. Finding a cure for HHT is a team effort, including researchers, doctors, nurses, staff and board members, other volunteers, and patients. The enormous progress of the past 3 decades reflects this successful collaboration. Strategic planning at Cure HHT is guided by 3 main goals: find, treat, and cure. Goals met by increasing awareness and education, improving clinical care, and promoting research. Major strides have been made in each area. To increase awareness and education, Cure HHT has held numerous patient and family conferences, expanded its website to include a resource library where patients and physicians can find resources on any HHT-related subject, provided an ongoing series of webinars on HHT topics, and enlarged its outreach to the community with a strong social media presence. Cure HHT has improved clinical care by developing 27 HHT Centers of Excellence in North America, and is participating in a pilot study on treating HHT in hemophilia centers, which could further expand care options. They've developed the HHT Tracker app, which helps patients track their symptoms and share data with their doctors to improve treatment. In 2019, Cure HHT held the Christopher McMahon Memorial International HHT Guidelines Conference, where physician experts and patient advocates from around the world came together to update the original 2009 guidelines, based on the latest research and best clinical practices. Cure HHT shared the new recommendations in a series of patient fact sheets and webinars to facilitate communication between patients and doctors. Thanks to generous support and careful allocation of resources, Cure HHT remained fully operational during the COVID-19 pandemic and offered virtual educational programs and a series of clinical updates on COVID-19 and potential complications for HHT patients. Cure HHT has promoted research by hosting 13 international scientific conferences, where scientists and physicians share their newest research, form research collaborations, and apply what they learn to improve clinical practice. Cure HHT has sponsored basic research on mechanisms of HHT, clinical research on medications for HHT, and research registries, including the Outcomes Registry and the Brain AVM study. And Cure HHT has leveraged its investment of $1.5 million in seed grants for young investigators into $48 million of federal government grants for research on HHT. In 2020, Cure HHT received a grant from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative's Rare as One network, which supports rare disease organizations to develop patient-led research networks that encourage sharing of ideas among patients, scientists, and physicians. In the years ahead, Cure HHT will continue to fund new HHT researchers and clinical fellows. We will develop a patient registry where patients can enter data about their own symptoms, treatments, and quality of life to facilitate research and identify patients eligible for new clinical trials. Pazopanib will soon be tested in a federally funded clinical trial, and other drugs for HHT are currently under development. Physician and patient education programs are ongoing, as is the certification of additional HHT Centers of Excellence. There is much to celebrate and much to anticipate. The next 30 years are sure to be exciting and productive as we continue to work together for the good of the HHT community. We invite you to celebrate our success and support our mission to find, treat, and cure HHT. Cheers to the next 30 years. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Well, this evening would not be complete without a word from our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Scott Olitsky. Many of you have read Dr. Olitsky's response to important HHT questions and concerns over the years on social media platforms, or heard him conducting Facebook Live in the wee hours of the morning for our Australian patients. As a patient himself with a long identified history of HHT in his family, Dr. Olitsky brings a unique gift to the foundation. Dr. Olitsky, thank you for being with us tonight.
I'm Scott Olitsky. I'm the Chief Medical Officer for Cure HHT. I come from a family that has known about the diagnosis of HHT for 5 generations, beginning with my great-grandfather. However, it wasn't until I went to medical school and read about HHT in my pathology textbook that I began to understand the true potential impact of HHT on both me and my family. I first became involved with the foundation about 10 or 12 years ago when I was asked to serve on the board of directors. I was incredibly impressed with the passion and dedication of my fellow board members. I'm a pediatric ophthalmologist, and I recently retired from clinical practice, where I was a professor of ophthalmology at the University of Missouri, Kansas City School of Medicine. When I retired, I knew I wanted to dedicate more of my time to HHT. During my tenure with the foundation, I've witnessed significant improvements in research, awareness, and treatments for those of us with HHT. I hope you will continue on the journey with me as we strive to find better treatments and eventually a cure for this disorder.
Through the years, Cure HHT has spent countless hours connecting with the community they serve through patient conferences, regional and national walks, community events, grassroots fundraisers, scientific meetings, and so much more. Here's a peek at all the learning, laughter, and love that we have witnessed through the years. Let's meet Cassie Friday, Cure HHT volunteer extraordinaire. Here's Cassie and why she is so dedicated to Cure HHT.
I'm Cassie Friday. I am an HHT caregiver. My husband and 2 of our 3 children have HHT, and I've volunteered with the Cure HHT Foundation for several years now. I'm not really sure how long anymore, but I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I am just so impressed continually by Cure HHT and all the staff there who just keep it running so efficiently, and just their compassion towards patients and families, and just their advocacy to raise awareness for this disease is just absolutely mind-blowing. And it gives us a lot of peace of mind to know that, you know, there have been so many advancements coming from the Cure HHT Foundation over the last 30 years, and that's just going to continue to go up. And this is a foundation that's going to be there for our kids when we can't be anymore, and that gives us just a lot of peace of mind to know that, you know, they have people on their side fighting for their quality of life, fighting for a cure for HHT, and that's something that we'll always be so thankful for. One of my favorite memories working with the HHT Foundation was serving on the legislative committee. I think it was in 2017. I had a chance to go to Capitol Hill and actually lobby for funding for like research appropriations for vascular malformations, which of course is what HHT is about. And we got to sit down and go to different senators' offices and have the talk about what HHT is, why it's so important that this funding stay in the budget, and it ended up staying in the budget. And that was really cool, that they listened and they really genuinely seemed to care. And we were able to make that happen. And that's just probably one of the many favorite memories that I have working with the Cure HHT Foundation. And I hope that, you know, our family stays involved, you know, as long as we can, because we have a lot of work still to do. And I want to say thank you to everyone and happy 30th anniversary.
It's back to Mary Ann for the presentation of the Trish Lenke Volunteer Award.
To honor the commitment and valuable work Trish Lenke has done for Cure HHT since its inception, we have an award in her name. The 3 important qualities this award acknowledges include: first, it recognizes those individuals who have led important initiatives or positions in our organization and whose leadership have moved us forward. Second, it acknowledges major contributions through a variety of means: visible advocacy for HHT patients and families, fundraising or personal donations to encourage awareness of the HHT community. Third, it honors the long-term commitment of the work of the foundation. This year's winner of the Trish Lenke Award is Cassie Friday, PhD. Cassie and her husband Anthony are the parents of 3 young children. Anthony and 2 of their children have HHT. For nearly a decade, Cassie has volunteered to help Cure HHT on many levels. Cassie is the medical case manager for all of her family's healthcare records. She has written blogs on our website to help and assist others with tips when meeting and changing doctors. She has written several articles for our newsletter, notably how to help children meet bleeding challenges. The Friday family has lived in the U.S. and also in South Korea, where Anthony was deployed for several years. Throughout all of these years, we have called upon Cassie to help on the medical and scientific front as well. She has a PhD and has written several NIH grants. She was able to write lay explanations for our newsletters, describing for you the results of our Young Investigator Awards and why they are important to our community and our future. Most notably, for nearly a decade, Cassie has assisted in organizing and writing our pazopanib grant application to the FDA for treatment and consideration and prepping our clinical trial documents. This is no easy feat. These documents are hundreds of pages and highly technical. Cassie worked closely with Dr. Dennis Sprecher from our board of directors on this endeavor. Cassie was able to accomplish all of this while the busy mother of three and stationed in another country. We wish to express grateful thanks and appreciation to you, Cassie, for leading and helping so many in our community with practical advice and your significant contributions on the research front. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Cassie, on your much-deserved award. Everyone at home is certainly sending you the sincerest of congratulations as well. It's important for us to recognize extraordinary volunteers like Cassie and their contributions to our organization, as they truly are making a difference. We're pivoting now to research and discovery. There isn't anyone better to talk about tubes and mice than Dr. Michelle Letard, the founder of the HHT gene endoglin.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Letard and I am a senior scientist at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto and also a professor of immunology at the University of Toronto. I now have the status of emeritus or emerita and still very active, particularly in teaching immunology in the developing world. I am also known as the mother of endoglin or as Madame Endoglina. And this is because our lab discovered endoglin in 1984 and continued to work on its structure and function for several years. My first encounter with HHT was a phone call from Doug Marchuk in 1994, asking me to collaborate to verify if endoglin could be the gene mutated in HHT. And indeed, it worked, and endoglin became the HHT1 gene. Bob White then invited me, very soon after the paper came out, to come to Yale to meet his clinical team, such as Josh Korsnick and Issam Awad, and also he invited Doug Marchuk, and I think that Bruce Jacobson and Alan Guttmacher were there as well. So we had a very fruitful discussion and where everybody was very exciting that we finally, after 100 years, had a gene for HHT. But Bob was very, always amazing leader, asked me to start an HHT center in Toronto. And I told him, Bob, I am not a physician. How can I do this? Don't worry, I will give you names and this will work. We had the first meeting at Sick Kids shortly after in 1995, and Rita from the foundation came, and so did Bob Island and his young fellow, Marie Fonan, at the time, and they were from the Wellesley Hospital. Also, Ian McCloskey, who was a pulmonologist at Sick Kids and a genetic counselor from Sick Kids, came, as well as Carol Tabrouge from the Western Hospital. This is in fact the nucleus that created a very successful Toronto HHT Center that is currently run by Mary Fonan. In 1995, at a patient meeting in the US, the foundation agreed that I could ask expecting mother to consent to have their fresh umbilical cord and placenta shipped to Toronto so that we could use this as research material, as well as if we receive some blood samples from the parents a bit later on, we could determine whether the child had HHT. Eventually, we included HHT2 in the test as well. So this is how we started, and this went on for several years, and it was a very, very busy time, thanks to collaborators through the state, such as the group from Yale, the group from Toronto, but also Frank Miller and Jamie McDonald in Utah. In fact, in 1996, we had a patient meeting in Salt Lake City, followed by a memorable 2-day trip on the houseboat of the Abbott family on Lake Powell. And the Abbotts were such strong advocates of HHT and did everything they could to help. Such interaction between patients, physicians, and scientists are unique and are in fact primordial in establishing collaboration and moving research forward. In 1996, we had the first international HHT meeting in Edinburgh that was organized by Mary Porteous, and at which I met Professor Hughes and a young fellow at the time, Claire Chablin, from the Hammersmith Hospital, Jonathan Berg, Doug Marchuk, HHT physician from Yale and Utah, Alan Guttmacher, Bruce Jacobson, but also Henri Plochu from Lyon, Kees Westerman from the Netherlands, Paul Vaz and Annette from Denmark, Dr. Danazino, and I believe Elisabetta Buscarini from Italy, and also I think Urban Geister from Germany was there. So this, I want to stress that the foundation is international, and for me that was a very important point from the beginning. And many, many meetings followed were on exotic meeting, very often on islands. Everyone reached to their network and contact, and so Cure HHT grew. I even convinced my Andalusian colleague of many years, Carmelo Bernabe, to join and establish a center in Spain, which they did, and he eventually became chair of the HHT board for several years. I cannot thank enough all the great colleagues and friends met through the foundation. I cannot name them all, and all the patients and family encounter at patient meetings, especially those who participated in our studies. The newborn from 1995 and onwards are now adults, having children of their own, which makes me feel like a grandmother sometimes. We must congratulate and acknowledge the very active members of the HHT Foundation, and now Cure HHT, for in a phenomenal way they have brought patients, physicians, and scientists together to move research forward, standardize treatments, and constantly search for innovative treatments. Seed grants to scientists have been instrumental in gathering preliminary data to apply for much larger grants. I also want to thank particularly Marianne Clancy for a constant and sustained effort to move Cure HHT forward and direct a most efficient team and keep everyone focused on the need to indeed cure HHT through novel research and treatments. We can be proud to celebrate 30 years of achievements. Bravo.
Next up, we have Dr. Michelle Fonan, Director of the Toronto HHT Center of Excellence, presenting the Robert E. Berkman Leadership Award. And also Dr. Sarah Palmer will be presenting the Volunteer of the Decade Award. Ladies?
Happy anniversary, Cure HHT. I'm so happy to pay tribute to this amazing organization. In the next few slides, I'm going to walk you through my everyday life, and you will see how much Cure HHT has influenced my life and career. I like to start the morning off right with a coffee in my favorite HHT cup. This is the original emblem from the HHT Foundation International when I first became involved with the organization back in 1997. Next, I bike to work. And this is the Cure HHT tag on my backpack, and I can't tell you how many people have stopped and asked me about it. I'm very proud to wear it. The first thing I see when I get into the office is this. This is the poster from the first NIH HHT conference that was organized and facilitated by Cure HHT. It was really the start of many research collaborations and advances in HHT. I was very excited to be there, and it was also the start of my research career in HHT. It was very stimulating. This is a very special collage that Marianne Clancy and Cure HHT made for me when I finished my tenure as chair of the Scientific and Medical Advisory Board for Cure HHT. That period was a very special period for me where I learned to be a leader, and I really give Cure HHT and Marianne Clancy the credit for helping me to do so. Over here I have a more recent photo of our PIs on the DoD grant. This long-standing and successful HHT research collaboration was really facilitated in its early days and at every step of the way, really, by Cure HHT. Cure HHT taught me to be a leader, helped me build collaborations and develop as a researcher, and taught me especially to be an advocate for my patients. I feel like I was mentored by Cure HHT through the 24 years of my career, and I can't say thank you enough. Cheers, Cure HHT.
Good evening, friends and colleagues. It is a real honor and a pleasure to present to you the 2020 recipient of the Robert E. Berkman Leadership Award. Chris Hughes is an HHT superstar. He's a world-class researcher. He's a passionate advocate for HHT, and he's been an inspiring and an effective leader for the HHT scientific and medical community. He's taken on a number of leadership roles, including leading the Global Medical Research and Medical Advisory Board, leading the patient conferences and scientific conferences, and currently leading the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative Rare as One. I've been really fortunate and have had the opportunity to work alongside Chris for the past about 15 years, and I've really enjoyed his friendship and his collaboration and his vision and his leadership. I actually saw Chris get the HHT bug, as we like to call it, when somebody new joins the HHT community, the HHT cause, with kind of a newfound passion for it. And Chris got this bug many years ago, and he's been, one of his special gifts to the HHT community is how effectively he's passed on that bug to many other scientists. He really has reached out to a lot of young investigators and other scientists in the field and has engaged them in his passion for the HHT cause. Chris, thank you for your leadership, for your generosity, for your passion, and for your friendship. Cheers to you.
Dr. Dennis Sprecher is a retired clinical cardiologist who now designs and develops clinical trials for industry and academic organizations. He and his family have been involved with the HHT Foundation for over 2 decades. Dennis served on the Cure HHT Board of Directors from 2005 to 2011 and rejoined the board in 2019, volunteering his professional expertise to help develop drugs for treating HHT. Dennis has championed the study of pazopanib to treat bleeding in HHT. He was instrumental in developing the first pilot study of pazopanib, educating the board and gaining their support for a clinical trial, finding a drug manufacturer that works with the FDA, securing an FDA breakthrough designation, planning a randomized controlled trial, and applying for grants from the federal government and the FDA. Dennis has spearheaded this work for 10 years as an unpaid volunteer. To recognize his vision, dedication, and hard work, we are proud to present Dennis with Cure HHT's Volunteer of the Decade Award. Dennis, we are incredibly fortunate and grateful to have you on our team. Congratulations.
Many of you may recognize our next presenter as the young man from More Than a Nosebleed video that captured over 500,000 views on YouTube. He has been with Cure HHT through the years in multiple capacities. Here's Dr. Anthony Anzel to tell his story.
Hey guys, it's me. Wanted to wish Cure HHT a happy 30th year anniversary. Geez, how much stuff they have done in the past 30 years is absolutely amazing to me. All the centers of excellences that they've opened, all of the resources and the webinars that they have. It's just been incredible to be a part of the community and to have such a strong resource to use like the Cure HHT Foundation. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Anthony Anzel, and I was diagnosed with HHT when I was 15. I had a terrible migraine that lasted for 2 weeks. After several misdiagnoses, my mom fabricated the symptoms so that they gave me a CT scan. And upon the CT scan, they saw that a fourth of my brain was covered in abscess. After 3 brain surgeries to relieve the abscess on my brain, a liver surgery to relieve the abscess that had spread to my liver, and a lung surgery to fix 2 pulmonary AVMs, the doctors thought, hey, you might have this genetic disease that you've never ever heard about called HHT. And sure enough, after genetic testing, that's what I had. So obviously now we've learned a great deal about HHT and how important it is to spread awareness. And ever since I was diagnosed, I kind of dedicated my entire life to HHT. I just wanted to serve the community, serve the patients, and let something like that, what happened to me, not happen to anybody else. And so I've done all these crazy endurance events, like I swam across Torch Lake, which was a 19-mile swim in northern Michigan. I rode my bike across Michigan, which was about 200 miles, and I ran a 50-mile ultra marathon. So I've done all these really crazy things just to raise awareness, raise funds for HHT. But I felt like I always wanted something a little bit more, and so I decided to pursue my PhD and to try to do research to find a cure. And I've had the wonderful opportunity last May, to join the University of Pittsburgh in the lab of Dr. Beth Roman, where we actually do HHT research, and we're there, just living out my dream, trying to find a cure for the HHT community. So it's really been a blessing, and I can't thank my family, the Cure HHT Foundation, and just the community enough for the opportunities that they've given me to get here. And so before I let you go, I also did want to announce that this year, August 14th, just because, I don't know, it was a while since I've done my last crazy thing, I was going to do one more crazy thing. So this year, August 14th, me and a couple of my friends are actually going to do an ultra triathlon. It's like an Ironman, but it's just more. Why? Because we're crazy and we want to raise awareness for HHT. So be on the lookout for all that good stuff that's coming out. But yeah, really, thank you so much for Cure HHT. You guys have been absolutely amazing, and just keep up the good work, and happy 30th year anniversary.
Wow. Anthony, we certainly look forward to your event and wish you the very best in your future endeavors. This next presenter, Mrs. Jody Nissan, has a long history with the foundation. She and her family are the compassionate volunteers behind Our Hopes Hold a Cure, dedicating year after year of fundraising efforts for Cure HHT. The Nissan family, Jody, Clay, and their 3 children, Sydney, Sierra, and Jared, have worked tirelessly together with incredible support from their friends and family to make their annual event, Night of Hope, the most successful fundraiser year after year for Cure HHT. Tonight, having been the inaugural recipient of this award herself, Jody joins us from Ann Arbor, Michigan, to name this year's Compassionate Champion.
Thank you so much, Harry. I really appreciate that. I am honored to be here today and to present the award for Compassionate Champion. The individual that is the recipient of the award this year has inspired me from the time I met him. When my kids were first diagnosed with HHT, they were very scared and afraid of this disease. This individual made it a point to immediately come over and was able to provide our entire family with hope that everything was going to be okay. I have always admired this individual because he puts his words into action. He has taken on many endurance events throughout the years that have provided a tremendous amount of research as well as awareness for HHT. This individual has now dedicated his career into finding a cure, and I am certain with his brilliant mind and his determination that he will do just that. So I would like to present this award to Dr. Anthony Anzel. Congratulations, Anthony.
Thank you, Jody, and congratulations, Anthony. We are so proud of you and all that you have accomplished. We know there's so much more greatness in store for you. A large part of the Cure HHT mission is to spread awareness about Cure HHT so that we can significantly reduce the years between symptoms and diagnosis. Did you know there is still a 25-year delay between diagnosis and confirmation of HHT? Let's work together to lower that number dramatically. Here's a few ways that our patient community has made efforts to create awareness. And sometimes they like to bring their pets along the way. come meet the pets of Cure HHT. Which one of these canines or reptiles won the Strides for Strength pet category? Stay tuned. Anthony Azell will be back shortly to announce the winner, along with other winners in the Strides for Strength virtual global walk for a cure. Now I'm passing the program over to two of our board members, Jim Lapides, followed by Dennis Routledge, for their unique perspective about Cure HHT and how the foundation has changed their lives. Gentlemen?
Good evening. My name is Jim Lapides, and I'm a member of the Board of Directors and the co-chair of our Development Committee. I want to thank you for all joining us tonight. This is a time of celebration for our accomplishments of the last 30 years, as well as a time for reflection on what remains undone. You've heard tonight a few of the many stories of everyday heroes and bold innovators who've worked tirelessly to put the building blocks in place for a cure, and they have changed our world. Like many of you, I grew up with HHT. My mom and granddad had the disease, and it was a major factor in their deaths. HHT had become a central theme of my own life in my 50s. Laser treatment no longer was effective for me, and I had nosebleeds that could last hours and sometimes until I fainted. My wife and I felt hijacked by HHT when any moment could turn into a nightmare. That is when I decided to go to my first patient conference in 2012, which opened up a new world and the tools to get control of my life. After much trial and error, I and my doctors found a combination of therapies that have truly given me my life back. I owe that to Cure HHT and its single-minded focus on making our lives better. We want that for all of our fellow patients. It is our mission. And, like most of you, I want to see this disease cured in our lifetimes. So I ask, how do we do that? You've heard our history tonight. We have a great foundation and a process that works. Despite lack of funding and manpower, Cure HHT has a remarkable history of leveraging donor gifts into breakthroughs. I began to understand this when I became a board member 5 years ago. It started with our founders, our board of directors, and a former board member, Mary Ann Clancy, who is a remarkable executive director and a constant embodiment of our cause. It started with leadership gifts from board members and others, and gifts of all sizes to provide seed capital and proof of concept that would build our community and be leveraged by foundations and government. Our board is a working board, a remarkable group that is fueled by passion and the expertise that members bring to it. Let me say we need your help. If you know of candidates, we are always looking for new talent. Please call me. I'd be glad to talk with you. The board, of course, would be lost without the same level of commitment and knowledge from Mary Ann's staff, our volunteers, and our partners. This is an extraordinary group, and I am so touched, really, every day by how incredible they have carried out our mission. A third leg of the stool, of course, is our centers and scientists and advisors. With more than 25 centers now and HHT-focused researchers around the world, change is the only constant. Progress comes from every corner. If you or your family has ever had an HHT emergency, you will see expertise and protocols that were not in existence a few years ago. When our board meets every 3 months, I am regularly astounded at the progress, and you would be too. The rate of change has increased, and we discuss programs that were science fiction just a few years ago. We routinely work with drug companies that need us to support them, not with cash, but with the building blocks that enable their work. That's where you come in. Every donor and volunteer helps make this happen. You remind us every day why what we do matters. There is a lot of suffering and yet an incredible amount of kindness, generosity, and spunk in our community. We would not be where we are without every gift from $20 to leaderships of many thousands by far-sighted donors through the years. It is a privilege to work with all of you. This 30th anniversary has reminded me of our mission's utmost urgency. In the coming months, we will outline the key breakthroughs we believe still are needed to bring a cure and a plan to get us there. I know we can do this working together. We have in the past, and will do it even better in the future. I would like to leave you with some inspiring words from one of the most famous figures of the 20th century, Muhammad Ali. I think they describe the spirit of our organization and patients like you who refuse to settle. Quote, "Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact. It's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration. It's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing." Thank you for your attention. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this celebration and for everything that we have achieved. We can do it together. Good night.
Good evening. I'm Dennis Routledge, and I'd like to share with you our family story in HHT. My wife Maureen is the one who has, unfortunately, HHT in the family. Her mom died in 1990 from complications from HHT. Maureen suffered her first nosebleed during our first child's pregnancy, and during the 90s averaged 4 to 5 nosebleeds every day, which actually caused her to have a career change. Since then, there have been various other organs that have been involved. In 1994, we attended our first conference, and then we visited Yale to confirm our HHT diagnosis. Myself, I've been a board member since 2000 with 1 year off, and I've held multiple board positions, including president. People ask us, why do we stay connected to the HHT, Cure HHT Foundation? Well, number one, Cure HHT is our number one charity. The office is always there with support and great advice as we go from one episode to the next episode, finding yet another organ involvement, and we're not sure how to proceed. It also gives us access to other patients and families around the world who are living with HHT through the website, Facebook, Instagram, and the information on the website, which we know is constantly maintained and accurate. We go to conferences. Now, one or both of us have attended all conferences since 1994, except for one. And you might ask why? Well, we get to see and hear the latest in science and clinical care developments concerning HHT by the experts. We meet the doctors and scientists who attend outside a clinical setting and are able to discuss our treatment. When we are asked why do we continue to support Cure HHT? First, before I answer that, I'd like to say to all of those who are listening to this who have been supporting Cure HHT over the years, thank you for your commitment. For those folks who have thought about supporting or are new to Cure HHT, let me share with you why we do. Number one, we want to keep the lights on in the office so that Mary Ann Clancy and her staff are there to answer your questions and provide advice if you are having a medical episode. Two, we want to continue to support existing centers and add new centers. We want to continue the lobbying effort in Washington to acknowledge that the need to find a cure for HHT and to fund research to find a cure for HHT. Thirdly, we take a look at the track record of investments in the science of HHT and the resulting breakthroughs, which have been significant over the last 30 years. We want to continue the investment in science and clinical research to provide better answers in the short term and the ultimate answer, a cure. Consider the recently updated guidelines and that there are also 4 drug trials in multiple centers ongoing right now. In closing, I want to tell you it has been an amazing 30 years when we look back on the progress, the commitment, and the investment by people like you, and that has made and will continue to make support the HHT community. HHT is the only one voice and organization that speaks for the HHT community and will provide the leadership to ultimately find a cure for HHT. Thank you and happy 30th anniversary, Cure HHT.
Good evening. I'm Phyllis Loveland, Cure HHT's Communications Manager, and I'm very humbled this evening to present this very special memorial tribute video featuring many of our HHT patients who lost their lives to this terrible disease, many in the prime of their life. The video will also feature some of our scientists and physicians who dedicated their life's work to treating and trying to cure this disease. Lastly, the video will feature some of our caregivers and volunteers who worked tirelessly for those that they loved. Sit back and let's take this journey of remembrance together.
Now here's three members from the Abbott family, Chuck, Allie, and Lindsay. They'll talk about their roles in Cure HHT through the years.
So what are some of your best memories and things that you appreciate being involved with Cure HHT?
Well, I was very much involved with the beginning of the HHT Foundation, and I really enjoyed that because we had lost two children to it, and so I was very hopeful that we would find some ways to treat the symptoms of HHT.
Okay, and what are some of your hopes for HHT as they move forward?
Well, my biggest hope is that rather than just curing some of the symptoms, that we'll find a cure for the disease so that one can implement that cure in a family and perhaps not have any more children who have it.
All right, and how do you feel about Cure HHT celebrating their 30th anniversary?
I think that Marianne Clancy has done an amazing job of raising funds and getting people to donate their time and hiring physicians and people like that, and made some great progress in HHT.
Some of my best memories of being involved with the Cure HHT and the foundation, ever since I was young, I was familiar with it because of some of the situations that happened in our family, and my parents enabled it so that we were able to start attending meetings and seminars early on, some of the patient conferences, to be able to learn about the screening and treatment that was available. It's been really fun to attend those and get to know some of the doctors and the people that volunteer on the board and to serve in the HHT community. And it's been really fun to be involved with some of the auctions and the walks, all the different things that bring awareness and help to fund the research. And my hope is that as we move forward, that my grandchildren, eventually down the road, that there won't even be this disease and these ailments that they have to worry about, that they'll be able to have medications and simple ways to treat and take care of the problems.
Allie has reminded me of a couple things that I really enjoyed. We had an antique auction company, and I got to do some auctions at HHT conferences, and I really enjoyed doing that. And the other one was recently when I got to do the magic trick.
Yeah, the HHT community and Cure HHT has done a great job to manage to bring awareness to communities, and even through the pandemic, and with the webinars that they now have. So way to go, Cure HHT, 30 years, and many more to come.
Growing up, I loved attending the Cure HHT conferences. We'd go to the children's group and meet other kids just like me who had similar health backgrounds. I'm so grateful for all of the people at Cure HHT, the volunteers, the paid employees, and the doctors who spend lots of time to advocate for my health. I hope that one day I can follow in the footsteps of many who have gone before me and be a part of Cure HHT to help those who will come after. Happy 30 years to Cure HHT, and I hope there's many more years to come.
Thank you, Chuck and Allie, for your contributions through the years. It's greatly appreciated. Now the moment you've been waiting for. Anthony Azell is back to announce the winners of our Strides for Strength.
Hi, HHT family and friends. It's Anthony Anzel back again to give you the winners for the Strides for Strength June Awareness Month campaign. And I'm happy to announce that we got to 97% of our $50,000 goal. And because I can't do the math that quickly, I actually wrote it down, and that is $48,538.01. That's a lot of money, and that one penny, every penny is important, so that one penny is super important. We still have a little bit of time if you want to donate to get to that $50,000. It's only $1,500 more. We can do it. We can get to $50,000. Couple more donations. Let's get it done. But here we are. We need to announce the winners of the Strides for Strength through the June Awareness Month. And so I will start with the adult division. We had a ton of people come out and a ton of people support for our walkers, and a ton of people who've made donations. We're incredibly grateful. And now I'm going to announce the winners for the adult division. So in third place, we have Bill Bolton from Plato, Texas, who walked a total of 136.9 miles. That is a long way. Congratulations, Bill. Incredible accomplishment. In second place, I may pronounce this last name wrong, but I'm just on a hunch that it is like a French-sounding last name. So if I get it wrong, I apologize, but I'm going to go with it anyways. Confidence is key, right? In second place, we have Anne Bentley Louvier from New Iberia, Louisiana, who walked a total of 143.5 miles. Unbelievable. That is a long ways to walk. And then in first place, for the second year in a row, this person has won the second year in a row. Drum roll, please. We have Robert Schmidt from Levittown, New York, who walked a total of, wait for it, 210.1 miles. That is 2 centuries, right? I mean, 100, 200, 210 miles. Unbelievable, Robert. Keep up the good work and keep walking those miles because they look good on you. All right, the next division. We have the child division. We're only announcing one, the first place child. And the first place child is Ava W. from Houston, Texas, who walked a total of 5 miles. That is a long way for a child to walk. Congratulations, Ava. You did an absolutely amazing job. And if you think about it, for how long a child's legs are to an adult's legs, you probably walked the equivalent steps of Robert Schmidt's 200 miles. So I'm just saying, Robert, got to step it up next year. All right. So to our favorite division, we have the pet division. And in third place, we have a little hometown hero, Delilah Galata from Metamora, Michigan, who walked a total of 16.9 miles. Wow. That dog must get some nice walks in the morning, if you know what I mean. All right, for second place, we have Buddy Olitsky from Lanesdale, Pennsylvania, who walked a total of 49 miles. That's unbelievable. That dog's in real good shape. And then wait for it, for our first place winner, who walked a total of 92 miles, which of my dog Bosco would have died after like 10 miles. 92 miles, we have K9 Roland from Levittown, New York. I don't know what kind of shoes you're wearing, K9 Roland, but those boots and those paws were made for walking. Congratulations. All right, next up, we have our top individual fundraisers, and I'm going to really zoom through these. We got our top individual fundraiser, John Bolton, who raised a total of $3,189.20. Unbelievable job. That is an enormous amount of money. Thank you so much, John. For our second place, we have Sarah Palmer, who raised $2,416.95. Sarah, you are absolutely amazing to our HHT community, and we appreciate everything that you do. We got another one here in third place, Julie Bolton. Another Bolton. We got 3 Boltons on here. They're killing the game over here. Julie raised $1,982.80. And in fourth place, our top individual fundraiser, Juliana Cornell, who raised $1,736.10. Unbelievable job, guys. Just can't say enough how grateful we as the HHT community are for you guys who raise money and walk all this way for us. It really means a lot. Last but not least, we got 2 more things, but last but not least, our top team fundraiser. Michigan friends are not going to be very happy about this, but the top team fundraiser is Team Buckeye, 10 members strong, and they raised a total of $9,947.25. Round of applause for Team Buckeye. That is a lot of dough. And I mean, that is a fifth of what our goal was. So congratulations to you guys.
huge help and did an unbelievable job. Last but not least, I would like to end with a shout out to our 3 excellence level sponsors, the Indiana HHT Hemophilia Thrombosis Center, our Stanford Health HHT Center of Excellence, as well as our Cleveland Clinic HHT Center of Excellence. And with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in for this little announcement. I want to thank all of the walkers who walked all those miles and raised all that money. Really, without your guys' support, this event would have never been possible. So pat yourselves on the back and keep those tennis shoes tied so we can keep walking to raise awareness and raise funds for HHT.
Congratulations to all our winners. What an inspiration you are to all of us. Thank you for joining us tonight. As we end, let's have a few words from our Cure HHT staff. Good night, everyone.
From all of us here at Cure HHT and the 2 billion cicadas, thank you for joining us tonight for our very special 30th anniversary celebration. Happy anniversary, Cure HHT!